We don't. Nobody going to do it for us. There's nobody outside of yourself. Nobody outside of ourselves that's going to do this work for us. We have to put in that real work.
Because the better you are at exploiting people, the more successful you are within capitalism.
We want to say salute to all our political prisoners, our POWs, our elder comrades in exile.
The satisfaction we need as a people only comes through liberation and independence.
Because we're not just building for self, we're building for the family, because the family is broken. We're building for the community is broken. The nation is broken, the race is under attack. We're in a state of emergency.
We always said the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am.
Yo, we live, y'all. This is
All right.
welcome to another episode of the Voices of New Africa. I'm getting an echo. Hold on, let me do this right here. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Voices of New Africa, the show that is where we educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated. I'm your host, Brother Prophecy, and as always, I got my comrades with me. Got my grandmaster teacher, Brother Fadali, and our elder Fadali, Baba Fadali, however you want to call it, and my partner in crime, partner in revolution, I should say, Brother Kakai Yi, and under the European system, they consider this a new year, y'all. It's a new year, but it might be a new European year, but it's the same goals and objectives, liberation for our people. But how is everybody doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here on the 7th day of Kwanzaa, which is Imani.
And I'm doing wonderful as well.
I'm just glad to be here. Peace after the revolution. Peace after the revolution.
Yeah, and speaking of that, this is the 7th day of Kwanzaa, Imani, which means faith, and it's not in Kwanzaa. It's not talking about a religious faith. It's talking about a faith in our struggle, a belief in our struggle, and a belief in our leadership, in our community, our people, our parents, and all of these things that will ultimately bring about our victory, belief in the righteousness of our struggle. And I think that's a brilliant thing, because it doesn't matter if you're a Muslim, a Christian, Black, Hebrew, Israelite, into African spirituality, whatever your belief system is, we can all get together and agree on our common goals and our common objective and a common struggle against a system that has been exploited against us. So yeah, today is the end of the cultural holiday Kwanzaa, but Kwanzaa does not just end today. It's something that we're supposed to practice 365 days a year. These principles, these 7 principles known as the Nguzo Saba, is something that, if implemented, could really benefit our collective, our people collectively, But anybody have some words on Kwanzaa, anything we want to say about money or anything?
Yeah, it's important that we have confidence in our people, in our parents, in all the elements of our community, because if we don't have confidence in our people, if we don't have a belief in our people, a belief in our movement, or in either our leaders or whoever, then we're going to not be able to realize the faithful motions of what we're trying to do. And I think that one thing that we have to begin to understand is that Kwanzaa has to become an activity, that, like you said, for 365 days, because we're trying to do principles. and principles are what most important thing that a revolution has to be based upon.
Well,
And
I think you just dropped out, Brother Fadali.
I need to.
Yeah, both of y'all just dropped out. Let's see what's going on. With there you go. You back in, so you can continue now.
Yeah, so I think it's important that that this faith, this kind of faith is the real faith, and we don't want to get twisted in thinking that we're trying to promote anybody's religion or come down on anybody's religion, and so therefore it never should be even discussed. Religion should not be even although I know that in some people they get twisted. They're still trying to do their religious faith and put their religious faith on others. That is not the purpose of Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is for us to have faith in our people and all the other elements of our people that we must have in order to have a collective, be a collective. And this collectivity is what is the central part of any movement. And understand that we are collective, and that all the things we are doing is for the collective. And anything that we do for an individual is also we're doing it for a collective. So individual. One thing I used to do when I think about the so-called Three Musketeers that were written by a black author, and he said, "For all for one, and one for all." And we talk about this faith. This all for one and one for all. In other words, that's the only way that we're going to be able to be muster or revolution is that we have that kind of understanding.
And to elaborate on that, Imani, faith, to believe with all our hearts and our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. And I think the belief in this sense, when we talk about the belief, the faith, we have to believe in the righteousness that we are supposed to be free people. We have to believe that it is righteous for us to even feel that in order for us to be free, that we have to have our own. And I believe that 7 principle of Imani puts us in that direction, forces us to understand why we have to separate from these people and get our own independent sovereign nation. It's only right for us to have our own. That means we have to be able to govern ourselves, self-govern. We have to have our own government. We need our land, our national territory. We need our own national territory. And our ancestors told us that years ago. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, for starts. And we have to believe in order for us to become independent people, we're going to have our own land and the righteousness behind us pursuing those goals of attaining that land, attaining our nationhood and self-government, our own economic system is through believing and with faith that we'll get there and we will win.
And something I want to say real quick. And I don't know, you might want to put some headphones. Can you hear? So if you hear an echo or something like that, that means somebody else's mic is on. So yeah, and that just means that one of us might need to mute our mic. Yeah, that's see Comrade Fadali. Yeah, so just let us know. Yeah, let us know. So if I don't catch it, you can catch it, and we can get rid of the echo. But said a mouthful. Money, faith, believing in the righteousness and victory of our struggle. A lot of times we have been conditioned to believe that our struggle isn't righteous. being under something is something wrong with being unapologetically New African or unapologetically Black is what some people call it. Um, I a while ago, I was talking to a girl. I told her Barigani, and I explained this was a Kwanzaa greeting, and I started talking about Kwanzaa. She was like, "Oh, you celebrate Kwanzaa?" I was like, "Yes," and she was like, "Well, when I grew up, I believed that Kwanzaa was racist, like something was wrong with it," and I was telling her that we've been trained to go against the things that are authentically good for us, mainly because the things that are good for us have been historically um, bad for the colonizer, bad for the oppressor. I see I'm kind of freezing up here, and y'all have to bear with us. Um, Last night and all the festivities and people shooting their guns. Apparently, somebody hit the internet line, and so the Wi-Fi is out, so our connection is going really, really slow. So y'all bear with me, but I'm gonna turn it.
In the Black Power days, there were a lot of people who tried to say that Black Power was racism. And one of the responses that we made to people who would make that statement was that to be racist, one has to have power.
Mhm.
We don't have power. We want to have power for our people, and but having power itself is not racist. But that's what I say today. That when you talk about having power, you're talking about controlling your life, controlling, your destiny, and all these things are necessary for people to come together. I'm going to give an example. Is a person that that I know that's from Uganda, and they went to the University of Memphis, and they got their degree in economics, and they once made a statement that where the economics was just white economics, it had nothing to do with what he was trying to do when going back to Uganda. But I also say that because in our younger brothers and sisters that come often don't even know the history and background of their country. So I could talk about Milton Obote, who was the first president of Uganda and what happened. I could talk about Idi Amin, how they brutalized, how the British, basically put negative propaganda about Idi Amin, and I could talk about what the policies and stuff of Idi Amin that forced, Israel to, to get Tanzania to send his army to send, Idi Amin wound up in Saudi Arabia, I think. The point is that we must know our history. We must know the present, past, and future of what we're trying to do. And history is present, past, and future. But if you come from a country and then don't even know the history of your country, if you don't know what happened, then you're going to become a victim of the enemy, and you're going to think that when we talk about Black power or getting a nation, that we're talking about racism. So, but once we know our history, once we get the understanding of what our history is about, we can understand that we can never, be racist because they have created a white supremacist system. You know, the capitalists are controlled. Capitalism is controlled by a white supremacist class, and this white supremacist class is just a small, minority, even of white people. But when we talk to people, then we got to get them to understand that if you go to Oakland, California, and go on 12th Avenue, you're going to see a Vietnamese bank, you're going to see a Muslim bank, you're going to see, every bank, every kind of bank but an African, Black bank. So even when we talk about it, when people come together and we see people come together, it's all on the basis of what they control. What Malcolm X said: land is power. Control of land is power. That's basically what we're are in the process of trying to make a reality, or making a reality. is land. Understand that we got to have, we got to have control of land. If you don't have control of land, you cannot have any power. And we don't have any power in the people in America. So that's why we created the Republic of New Africa and a provisional government. And a provisional government is just a government that's that's going to take care of our business until we get control of our land. Once we get control of our land, we'll have all the things that's necessary to elect people, in offices and the different states and stuff that we have organized.
Definitely. Definitely. A lot of good points. Made a lot of good points. I know, like we've been kind of fooled into believing, and this is one of the byproducts of living under a system of white supremacy. But we've been tricked into believing that we don't deserve the same things that other people all over the world have gotten. When we think about when we put out these concepts of Black power, independence, land, self-determination, all of these things, and people start to cringe. Certain people start to cringe because these ideas seem so foreign, and in many cases it's scary because we've been taught that your freedom is like synonymous with some evil, some boogeyman or whatever. What reality is simply trying to advocate, trying to gain the same thing that everybody else all over the world has got. And as you said, you go into communities and you see the businesses, the economic systems, the schools, and all of these things being run and controlled by the people of that community for the best interest of the people of that community. It's only us who has been exploited to an extreme amount by this system. When you go to our community and you see the systems and institutions that feed the lifeline of the community being owned.
And to add on to that, really, we have to understand that we are subjugated people. And what does that mean? That means that we go throughout our day-to-day life based on someone else defining what our life should be about, what our culture should be about. As far even in terms of the language in which you use when you're subjugated people, there's a entity or a power or a people that control your everyday life. We're talking about our own people now being conditioned to start accepting the term racism, including Black folks. When we defined it, we made sure that people understood you can only be a racist if you had the power to control the lives of others. And right now, because we are subjugated people, they have the power to change that belief through teaching our children and teaching our so-called intellectuals what their definition of racist is, or racism. So 10 years from now, subjugated people will be led to believe and accept that racism includes Black people. We have to begin to understand that will never change if we don't change our conditions and circumstances by becoming liberated people, where we define and we narrate everything that represents us. That's where we have to go, people, and understand, as long as you're subjugated people, these things that change will change under the auspices of the people who control you. And that's what's happening now. When you said, the young lady said that she grew up believing that Kwanzaa was racist, they've begun that process already of changing the definition of what racism and racist means, because it's their language, it's their words. they determine what definitions. They change the meanings along the way. It's just like when early on, when you voted, one man, one vote. Then they came in and changed that black people were 3/5 of a human. you know. So you have to tally them up differently. So one man, one vote. Now, really, when they did that, meant one man, one vote if you're white, and it's something else if you're not. But they control that, and they've been controlling it ever since they've enslaved us. And we have to believe and understand that it's only right for us to start thinking in terms of freedom and having our own land, our own nation, our own independent, sovereign nation at that. We can no longer allow these people to continue to control us, control our thoughts.
Well, I think that one thing we have to understand, this is our history, and in our history, we've had this fight over what is the definition, you know, of black power and what does that mean, and we even had splits in the organization and leadership as a result of the media basically trying to push that black power was racist, and so we even had misunderstandings in the Black Panther Party in relationship to SNCC, to an organization that was saying black power. And but we've basically among ourselves, we've straightened these differences out, because what we understand is that the system always going to make you fight against whatever you should be for. And so we saw what happened
the Black Panther
the
Party.
Black Panther Party.
Yeah,
When they had people that supposed to be in white solidarity, how they influenced, our movement to do things in their interest, not in our interest. And we study our history, and we'll see what happened, and we won't go through the same process again. That's why today we're clear about what we mean by we want power over our own lives. We want power over our own, resources, power over our own land. And all these things are very important. Because that's how they split us up in half. And we're still hanging, and then we were still able to go to in 1968 and came up with the Republic of New Africa and the provisional government of and in spite of what was being pushed out there on the negative side about black power. So the real black power will be when we control our land and our resources, and when we are able to benefit our people. And we have had situations of power where where people have began, like in Cuba and places like that, where people took control, of their lives, and they're still suffering from the white attempt to make it negative, to make the experience, of independence as a negative experience. And we talked many times about what happened with Haiti. And we can see even the leaders in America, that like Frederick Douglass, that did not understand the importance, of us getting reparations and getting the land and everything, and were used to get to help the United States come in to be able to invade Haiti at one point in time, and they're still invading Haiti right now. And so, and then they're blaming it on the people. No, it's not the people. It's those foreign forces that have come into our community and have created, certain kinds of splits in terms of classes and all that. And once we begin to see that, then we'll be able to overcome that situation. And that's why when we talk about Haiti, Haiti was the first black republic, period. In a period of time in which states came into being, when nation states came into being. And once we begin to see that and see what they're doing and how they're doing, then we can avoid, some of the things obstacles that have, happened to us in the past.
Well,
Grandmaster teacher,
we
we
know
know
from
from studying history that sometimes, as new generations come into being, um, there's a disconnect uh, with the youth and the history, because I say because of the system in which we're in right now. Our children have to be educated by our enemy. Um, and even if you have an opportunity to put them in one of their so-called private schools, the parents tend to have to work two jobs, or both parents have to work one job, and the children are left with the enemy for 8 to 10 hours a day. What can we do that we can have evidence of from past history? What can we do as a people, uh, and be consistent with it, to teach our children what needs to be taught to them in order for them to understand that liberation is the only way to go?
Okay, so community control. In other words, we have to advocate community control of the situation, of education, community control of everything. So, but we're not going to be able to do it in the system as it is constituted now, in terms of the way that they have, because the textbooks, particularly here in the South, they're published in Texas, from the most conservative group, so-called educate, in other words, and so therefore you're not going to get the materials in the books. That means that that the educational process has to take place. We have to educate the parents first in order to be able to get to the children. So therefore, what I'm saying is that's why we have to create our own political educational process, our own educational process where because it's not going to be done in the system, and they're closing down all the schools that's in proximity, to where you live. So so you can't go in and take over a school, like we would have been able to do maybe 30 years ago when it took over the school. Parents take over the school. So now the children are being bused to. So but what we have to do is put pressure to the point of where we educate the parents, because even when you deal with the Europeans, when they deal with their school, I mean the ones that really are doing education, they come as a group, and they come in the school and they control their school. They control their school.
Right.
Okay. So, but when we talk about educating in America, period, education, I mean, sucks even for the Europeans. Europeans the United States is one of the least educated. We talk about the populace.
Right.
We have the least educated populace in the world in the United States, and the United States spend more money on so-called education than any other country that is so-called major, European country. But the people are really drummed down to ignorance, and so consequently, what we have to do, we have to begin to put a collective together, the collective of parents. We were attempting to do it in the 60s. It was called CB, Independent School, Movement, Council of Independent Black Institutions. We have to. We're gonna have to literally have to create, a collective of people, throughout wherever we are, to handle the whole educational process. In other words, we got to pull out of that system. Because that's the only way we're going to be able to, educate our children and avoid that. So, and that's why we were talking about dealing with the college, the population, also the people in prison when they come out, the ones that are really doing that political education correctly and going to come back in that. We can go in the community and set up institutions, alternative institutions that are going to lead to independence. We're not talking about alternative. That's all in the system, so we can be in the system do reform. We're talking about revolutionary institutions, and that's what was happening in the '60s, all the way up to the '80s, where people all over the United States would set up, kindergartens and schools for their, and they pulled out of the school system. And we're gonna have to have a mass pull out, but we got to have a mass educational process that we're going to have to create, in order for us to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when you say reform, a lot of times people don't understand that breaking, and because they don't understand that, they get confused with breaking away.
Right.
Like you were talking about the educational system, breaking away from the educational system.
Right.
But doesn't that hold true to all, I guess, social activities?
Yes.
With reference to Francis Chris Weldon and Nearly Fuller, yeah. So what does that look like?
Right. All social. What I'm saying is, we got to create our communities. We have to take control of, now, like our health care.
Right.
We got to do our own health care. We can't depend on the enemy to continue to try to see if the enemy is going to give us a health care. Well, all institutions, all social institutions, including schools, are going to have to be taken control of by our state. You know what I'm saying? And as our state, I know that in some instances where we had created clubs and stuff, like scout thing for children and stuff, separate from so-called the Boy Scouts of America and all that. We had broke away, from having our children in those kind of institutions, because that's part of America, and we don't want to be a part of America. So we got to create the institutions while we're in the process of fighting, for our liberation. Create those institutions, because that's the only way you want to be able to handle the educational thing. Like you said, if you go to these schools where like even the ones that our brother was talking about going to the university, then we found that we created institutions to educate ourselves, and we had a newspaper, we had an organization, we had newspaper, we had all the things that would be necessary. And we didn't go to class. Some of us didn't go. We were doing our own study. You know what I'm saying? And when we went to class, the teachers didn't want you to come into class because you're contradicting everything they're saying in the classroom. So what I'm saying is, as an institution, as a group, we have to come together to create that kind of atmosphere. Close them down and create our own. Rather than allow them to continue to destroy the minds of our children,
Right. It's I was getting ready to say the radio thing. It's 17 after the hour. But this is not radio. This is live on Facebook. I got my colleague here, Yera. I got the Grandmaster teacher here.
Yeah, and y'all have to overlook thing today because last night a lot of people shooting, celebrating New Year's, and they knocked out our internet connection. So we're having slow internet time, and that's why you see some of us jumping in and out, and that's why I'm sharing the screen with Elder Baba Fagali. But yeah, we're having an interesting conversation and important conversation because it might be a so-called new year, but it's still the same goal of independence, self-determination, and all of those beautiful things that actually mean freedom. And you was talking about how we have to create our own independent institutions, our own educational systems, our own everything, and this has to be the overall goal of our struggle, because as long as we are dependent on individuals who are benefiting from our exploitation for the things that we need to survive, for the things that are going to influence the way we think, then I mean it's kind of like if a lion is in control of the way a deer is raised, then a deer is not going to be raised to fear a lion. Deer is going to raise to come right up to the lion and lay down and willingly give his life, because that is what benefits the lion. But deers have to be in control of educating their own children, their own offspring, so they can say, well, this right here is dangerous. You stay clear of this. These are the things that we need to do. These are the things that's going to allow us to prosper. And it's the same thing with us, but we're in this unnatural condition where we have been under the authority and rule of people who have benefited from our exploitation, and they have taught us to willingly give over ourselves, our energy, our resources, our very livelihood for their exploitation. And that's a part of the task that we have to defeat. We have to defeat that mindset, and we have to begin to create the type of individuals, the type of spirit and the type of mindset and the type of thinking that's going to allow us to act in the way that's going to actually bring about the true liberation of our people, the true empowerment of our struggle. And I think you really hit the nail on the head, because as you said, when you were in college, y'all did that through organization. You created organizations. And I think that's something that is extremely important. And sometimes we overlook that because we've been so taught about this whole concept of individualism, being as an individual. And as an individual, you can do very little, as far as changing the collective condition of your people. So as an individual, you can go out and you can have maybe some idea, or maybe, whether it's legal or illegal or exploitive or righteous or whatever the case may be. But as an individual, you can gain some money for yourself. You can start a business for yourself, an individual business, but that's not necessarily adding to the collective upliftment of your people. Right. We trying to build a whole. We're not trying to stay focused and locked down into this mindset of I gotta get mine, you get yours. That's no good. That's a European mindset, and it is destructive to all of us. And I want to say big shouts out to Brother Ro. How you doing, man? Yeah. Good seeing you, Brother Ro. Like I said, I gotta apologize. Brother Ro, because like right now our internet is down, so I'm sharing the screen with Master Teacher for Dolly, and we trying to make the best out of this situation, man. It was shooting everywhere on New Year's, and it knocked the internet out. Somebody done shot the internet cord. What's up to Susan Rogers? How you doing, Suzanne? Susan Rogers of Susan Rogers Accessories. Quips and Accessories. She got her own business, an entrepreneur out there. Have great products, and you probably are going to be looking at some of the NABA merchandise. There's probably going to have to do a partnership with that queen right there, because she does excellent work. What you say? Talk to Ro, man, because I
tried to send a message.
Don't worry about it. You can send a message. Talk to him.
Free the land. I mean, I'm glad to hear your
voice. Your mic.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear your voice, Brother Conrad. Man, we miss you too. I miss you, especially. But as we keep the struggle going, there's a lot of things happening. We're gonna have to reach out to each other after off the platform. I'll definitely do that today for sure. To get you up to speed, and you get me up to speed. I'm not a real Facebook follower and things like that, but I've been hearing different things, and so I want to share those things with you, and we'll get together. Grandmaster Teachers over here as well.
Hey, real quick. Are you Brother Ro? Are you in North Carolina or South Carolina? Which one are you in?
In Carolina, down below.
In South Carolina? Yeah. Because if you're in South Carolina, we having our Nation Day this year in South Carolina. And, if you are already in South Carolina, it'll be so dope to see you down there because we're gonna be down there.
Yeah.
Probably gonna be broadcasting live and doing a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, bro, if you can make it out, that'll be so awesome, man. For people who don't know, that's Ro Jamu, a strong soldier. That's part of the movement. Actually a tattoo artist. A brother who got all kind of talents, man. A brother who got all kind of talents, and man, that's a true soldier right there, man. That's a very important chess piece to the game of liberation. The chess game of liberation. That's a strong brother, and it's good to hear from that brother right there. But what's up to Melly Queen? I see you out there too. Or when you write a comment, man, you can read it. You can grab it back up.
I'm trying to see. I don't know how to do it.
Just read it. You ain't nothing complicated. Just read it.
Melly Queen, and then So as this technology increases, I it's a lot more to learn. I definitely make it to. We're gonna get the information out. The last information I heard is going to be around March the 23rd.
No, it's March, the end of March.
End of March.
March 31st. The last weekend in March.
Last weekend in March. And so we'll definitely be there. So we look forward to seeing you too there. We're going to keep you posted and keep everyone else posted. Because as we nation build, the camaraderie of conventions, getting people together, letting us know what's going on in other parts of the states, will get us an opportunity to bond more together. Melly Mel, yes, save the date. It's March the 31st through April the 2nd, 2023 in Charleston, South Carolina. It's going to be the 55 years on the road to our plebiscite. I mean, we need to put that together. We need to put that together because on one end, we're gonna do anything and everything to get our independence, but on the other side, internationally, we must get the word out and be recognized by other nation states. About our independence, about our national territory, about what needs to be done in this Western Hemisphere for the Africans that were brought over here against their will, who raised this nation to be one of the superpowers of the day and to not receive anything. And yet they are bickering amongst each other, not on not giving Ukraine any money, but how much of our money they're going to give the Ukraine. So this is why we got to maintain a strong presence in liberating our people and having that message. And like the Grandmaster Teacher has always said, a real truth as far as a philosophy and ideology will never change.
Yes. So thank you for looking at the Facebook message that we're putting out. I think it's important that we begin to understand that we have done, in many instances, the maximum that could be done under the circumstances in which we have been put into in America, because a lot of times people we don't want to acknowledge the people, to acknowledge the contribution that's been made that got us where we are today. Because if it were not for, we were not standing on the shoulders of people who are, many who are deceased, even in the last 50 years, we have people who have made a tremendous contribution to the movement. And so consequently, we will win. That's why we say we will win, because we have been a part of that struggle. We have not sat down and tried to go the other way, even when we had the most tremendous obstacles put in our place. And so in the Western Hemisphere, the African people, and particularly in the what they call the United States, have done a lot of things to facilitate the independence of other nations that have become independent nations, as far as nation states, and particularly on and on the African continent. We have been the greatest supporters of those movements that became successful. Even though now we recognize neo-colonialism has taken this, is our biggest problem everywhere. That neo-colonialism is something that we have got to get people to understand, that we don't control the resources or anything as a result of our struggles. So that's why the African Revolution continues. That's why the new African Revolution will continue, because we have not received any benefit from any of the struggles, and we have made some mighty struggles, and because we got mass incarceration of Africans, and we got, and in that mass incarceration, we have people who are in the struggle, are still in the struggle, that were captured, and they're still in the prisons today, and so therefore, and they're struggling inside those prisons. That's why when the brother talk about the brothers and sisters when they went over to West Tennessee prison, and it's one of the worst prisons in the state of Tennessee. People are dying every day in that prison, and so because of the madness of how they have done us as a people, and so consequently, and so as a counterbalance to that, there are people in dormitories that are doing their study and come together and have discussion and bringing people for events like Kwanzaa, to that prison. And I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that one of us made that this year.
Yeah, definitely. And just to make sure that the Facebook audience is aware of what we're talking about, we talked about this earlier on our radio broadcast. This past Thursday, a group of us went down to the Northwest Corrections Complex in Tiptonville, Tennessee. Like you said, one of the worst prisons in Tennessee. And we spoke, and we actually did a Kwanzaa program for a group of brothers who have been incarcerated, brothers who are attempting to transform their criminalistic mentality to a revolutionary mentality. And it was a beautiful occasion, one of the most inspirational things I've done, at least I've done in a while. And like we always say, some of our strongest soldiers, some of our most intelligent, brilliant minds are locked up in that prison system, fell victim of a war tactic that has been waged on us for over 500 years. It confirms everything that we think about when we say this is more than just rhetoric. We get to see these strong, intelligent brothers who should be out here protecting their families, building up communities, but they're locked down in the belly of the beast. And we had an opportunity to converse with those brothers, and it was just to feel those brothers' spirit, because they get it, what I'm saying? They really get it. They understand, exactly what it is we're talking about it, because they've lived through it. They've been victimized by this system. And it was a great occasion, and we're going to be doing that more often. Going into the prison and help to elevate the minds of our people, providing political education for those who have been incarcerated is an important part of our struggle. But as Grandmaster Teacher talked about earlier, it can't just be the prison. We have to go get our people everywhere. We have to go back into the colleges, because you go back to the 60s, most of the movements were started in the colleges by college students. The Black Panthers, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, they were college students in Grove Street College in Oakland, California in 1966. Stokely Carmichael, who's known as Kwame Ture, now Howard University. So we have to go into college. Last time I spoke at a college, it was heartbreaking to me, because the people had such a colonized mindset. I'm up here talking about land and independence and doing for self, and they coming back with things like we need white people. What we gonna do without white people? And I'm like, what we need them for? To put us in jail, to brutalize us, to murder us in the street? We don't need white people. The truth of the matter is, white people need us, because they have historically benefited from our exploitation, and they still are benefiting from our exploitation. So we infiltrate those colleges, and we gotta create our own educational program. You know what I'm saying? Because we can't depend on our enemy to educate us in a manner that is going to lead to liberation. It just ain't gonna happen. You know, your enemy ain't gonna teach you how to overthrow them, and that's just real. We got to get that through our heads. So, but the prisons program, it was inspirational, great day, a very good trip. Everybody did wonderful. Your boy went down there and showed out, man. I clowned on, you know what I'm saying? So, but it was really inspirational. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I mean, I don't even like bragging, but yeah, it was well received.
Production together.
I did a spoken word piece, and I spoke first, you know what I'm saying, and had a great conversation with the people. We was hype, we was all jumping up and like, yeah, and then I did a spoken word piece, and they appreciated that also. So yeah, it was a great day. Everybody, all the presenters did a wonderful job, and the inmates, the brothers who were incarcerated, they had such great questions and so great perspective, that I was like, man, our soldiers are really locked down here, and we need them brothers, so we got to get them, and we need the brothers and sisters that are in college, and we need the brothers and sisters that are out on the street, that are hustling on the corner, and we need the prostitutes, and we need the pimps, and we need everybody. We need the school teachers, we need the laborers, the factory workers. We need all of our people. We can't be like, well, I don't want to mess with them because they do this. I don't mess with him, he in college. Or I don't mess with them because they the garbage can workers. We got that's this European mindset of classism that we got to get rid of and eradicate. You understand that in order for us to gain true freedom, not this pseudo freedom where you're allowed to do what they allow you to do until they don't want you to do it anymore and they just take it away. But if you really wanna experience true freedom, we're gonna have to get our people. You know what I'm saying? Because the revolution cannot be successful without the support of the people. And I'm gonna turn it back over to a Grandmaster Teacher because I stole his screen for a while.
You're doing a good job, because we have to not forget the people who are in prison. They're all political prisoners. Some of them are not conscious that they are, but they are, because we in America, the whole prison system was basically set up by the 13th Amendment. The amendment that's supposed to have eliminated chattel slavery made it possible to have prisoners slaves in prison. And this is what we have to really understand. And like we were talking about our history earlier, when they called it Jim Crow law, what happened was black folks ceased to be in chattel slavery, but became slaves of society. And it's a book called Black Reconstruction by W.E.B. Du Bois, and it's a chapter called Back to Slavery, and it shows how all the things that in the so-called Reconstruction era was overthrown, and we actually became not slaves of individual masters, but we became slaves of society, and the new slavery is imprisonment, is mass imprisonment today. So when we talk about slavery has not ended. Slavery has only taken new forms over the period of time, and it will always, because America is based upon the extermination of the native people and the enslavement of African people. And the whole Western Hemisphere, as our brother was talking earlier, is a result of the labors of African people. And nowhere in the Western Hemisphere do we really have the power that's supposed to be given us by our independence movements. And so therefore, the new African thrust that we're talking about here in America is going to influence all the other new African states, that are in the Western Hemisphere. And once we understand that, because when Malcolm, before he was assassinated, was coming back from Africa, from his trip to Africa, his role was to try to organize all the Africans, not just in America, but in the Western Hemisphere. And the Republic of New Africa and the provisional government is a result of Malcolm's, vision in terms of that we must come, because in order for us to be able to be liberated, we have to have our own independent state. We have to be represented in the United Nations and any other forms that's out there, so that we can begin to seize control of the resources and things that we own, that we as a people have, and that has been misused and abused by the Europeans.
Definitely, and yeah, we bootlegging this, man, pulling the camera back and forth to try to make a program work. So y'all bear with us. But yeah, you said a lot of interesting on point things. One thing that really caught me was how you spoke of how the prison system really, the end of slavery really allowed the evolution of the prison system as we know it today. In fact, the end of slavery is when you saw the rise of the prison system. That's when you saw the explosion of the prison system. When it become actually being utilized. And you have to understand that, like as the 13th Amendment, as you so talked about, it gave it abolished slavery, but at the same time it made provisions. It made it where so it still can exist legally, within the United States. And after slavery, directly after slavery, you had the rise of something called a convict lease program, where individuals were getting arrested for just whatever vagrancy. You don't have a job. Of course, you don't have a job. You just say you instead of giving you reparations or giving you anything to help to build yourself up, they just say, okay, now you're free. Go out and live. So they created all these laws that would incarcerate individuals, and landowners. They can just say, okay, we're going to lease your prisoners now, and we're going to have the same system. That's one thing you have to understand. The reason for slavery was about the exploitation of labor for wealth, to make money. You know what I'm saying? So when the system is over or abolished, or that particular form of the system is abolished, they don't necessarily care about okay, we got to oppress the people like this. No, we want to continue to exploit the people and get the same results. And we got to make that look a little differently, then so be it. We can probably make it more efficiently. That's exactly what they did. They made it more efficient with these convict lease. Because like the period right after slavery, with the convict lease programs, that's one of the most brutal and violent stages in American history, and we don't talk about it as much because they was like saying, yeah, slavery is over, but not doing a proper analysis of what actually happened. Because like under this system, you still had slaves, but you're not even responsible for the slaves. So you don't care if you work them till they die, because if they die, you just go and get you another one from the prison system. So it's not like you had slaves. This was your property for life. So it's in your best interest to try to keep them strong enough so they can work your farm. You can get as much profit out of them as possible. Well, now you eliminated that. That motivation for keeping them. So now you have no motivation. Now you got this individual for a day or a week or however long the lease lasts. Well, now I'm motivated to get as much work from this individual as possible, even if that means working them till they die. Because once they die, I just go back to the jailhouse and replace them with another one. So yeah, but after slavery, you saw the rise of the prison system. Just like when you see the period in America where you had mass lynchings of our people. Well, when that ended, when people began to be held accountable for lynching our brothers and sisters, you actually see the rise of the death penalty. It's a direct link between the end of lynchings in America and the rise of the death penalty. And when you study, especially the death penalty until recent, the mass majority of individuals who received the death penalty were African men who did some crime to a European person, whether that be male or female. So the whole crime and punishment in America is directly linked to this system of oppression, exploitation, and white supremacy. It's directly so. Prison didn't become the multi-billion-dollar industry it did because strictly because we're trying to get rid of crime. No, it's trying to maintain a system of exploitation. Death penalty didn't become, especially like in places like Texas and all of these places, because the death penalty is more active in the South, and there's a reason for that. But it wasn't because of a deterrent of crime. It was to maintain a population that could potentially be, or a resistant population, a potential threat to your status quo, to make sure that you punish these individuals and make examples of these individuals so they'll stay in their place. Death penalties and lynchings directly correlated. And I'll turn it back over to you, Comrade.
Yes, and for example, Angola was a sugar plantation before it became a prison, and so a lot of the prisons became became farms, and so consequently, in the South in particular, like most of the prisons are basically, some kind of farm, Parchment, or Angola, and once we began to understand that the relationship, and look at the states, look at our states, look at Mississippi, look at Georgia, look at Louisiana, and look at South Carolina. They're the most oppressive states, that we are part of it because we are close to being a majority or a high percentage of Africans in those states. And we began to, and so this is why we must be very understand why we are talking about claiming our territory, because we are still close to majority, in all of those states, those 5 states and others. So I think it's important that we begin to, as a nation state, begin to establish our relationship, with other nation states in the world, and be able to build up our economy. One of the things that was asked earlier was about institutions. We have to get in control of all the institutions that affect our lives, and we cannot do it upon this system that we're being exploited on right now.
We had a lot of interesting comments. I noticed that we were talking about the industrial prison complex. Melly Queen puts out the industrial prison complex is the most efficient legal way of slavery for years. And for years, the labeled exploitation of our people, and they are making billions. They've gotten to a point now when at least I know in Mississippi, they're starting to charge the inmates rent. So when they get out, they got a bill if they've never been a part of the legal slavery process from some of these major corporations coming in there and having them work overnight on 3rd shift. But those who do get those jobs, those modern day chain gang jobs where they pay them little or nothing, they end up having to give that money to the industrial complex through commissary or rent. And so they're constantly having us spin our wheels. So when they get out, they broke. Like Melly Mel said, and when they get out, they cannot even work for those companies that they worked for when they was in prison. It may be even more difficult for them to get jobs elsewhere, because if they were in prison long enough to work for those companies, 9 times out of 10 they had a criminal charge that will reflect on their record when they get out, and they would be held against them when they go to apply for other slave jobs. And in addition to that, they've started a new trend, which I know from factual evidence that they have actually legalized marijuana in a number of well, there's two black cities that I know of, Baltimore and DC, where they legalized marijuana. The people are smoking marijuana legally, but when they go to apply for a job, they can't get a job if they test positive for THC. So they end up going to jail. They end up, because it's not legal. I mean, it's legal to smoke, but if you can't get a job, you end up trying to survive by any means necessary. You end up back in prison, working for the same people who wouldn't hire you when you was in the street, and you'll be working for free. So it is a racist system. It's getting kind of late, brother prophecy. We've having a lot of technical difficulties, but now we're on a roll. Joe Gonzalez, he mentioned that one of the causes to bring awareness and demand. Um, I got sidetracked. And demand change is the school to the prison pipeline. And I know Umar Johnson has been talking about that. We see that too. It's obvious. Melly Queen, they don't even have to do a crime. Let's not forget young brother George Stinney. That's right, Queen Melly Queen. Uh, uh, Joe Gonzalez, positive point, brother, on legal marijuana. Yes, yes, yes. So I mean, I want to continue on, but brother prophecy, how are we looking?
Well, I mean, we've been on for about an hour. We can wrap it up in a little while, but I mean, I just wanted to say, because you said something interesting that a lot of people don't know about, that you can get charged with a crime, incarcerated, lost your freedom, or the pseudo freedom that we have, and you can be charged in some prison systems, some states, charge inmates basically rent in order to be housed in their facilities. And there's some prisons across America that charge like up to $60 a day. So, like you said, they don't if they don't participate in these slave prison programs, then which I don't think their job would even pay that anyway. Because they only get paid like 40 cents an hour.
Right.
Um, so
Take
so
all their money.
yeah, so by the time that they do get out of prison, then they are indebted to the prison system for locking them up. It's a dirty game, because capitalism reduces everything to a commodity, and any kind of way they can find to make money off of you, uh, even if it's the most uh, unrighteous, immoral, and exploitive way possible, they're gonna do it. And that's one reason why we can't just uh, try to get land and have our self-government and have our own institution and create the same type of system
Right.
that we have here right now, because we're going to get the same results. All we're going to do is just exchange a white colonizer, white enslaver for black ones, and that's not what we're interested. We're not trying to do that. And if that's what you're trying to do, then you're in the wrong place. You can go on and practice black capitalism and black exploitation somewhere else, but we're not trying to do that. We see the contradictions of this society, and we realize that with the technology and the way and how far that human beings have progressed, we should be able to create a better system, a more humane system, a system that is not based on exploiting everybody else. We should be able to do. We can do that. We must do that. And I'm gonna turn it over to Master Teacher.
Yes, we have a lot of people who I can say are internal enemies. The internal enemies who want to just try to be just like America. They want to move, try to create a system that is detrimental to us as a people as a whole, so that they can make a profit. And so therefore we have to make sure that we understand the class situations in our community, so we can begin to not fall into that, because we have people who want to do reparation, but they want to get cash money for reparation so that they can become rich. You know, that is not the purpose of reparations. Reparations is supposed to give us to repair the wrongs that have been done and the things that have been done against us as a people, so that we can begin to do our own repair in our own lives, doing everything to control our situation, our destiny, and so that is how the enemy, the external enemy, is always going to work on internal enemies to create confusion. And Brother Kwame Ture used to say, confusion is the enemy of revolution. And so we have to make sure that we're clear that we're talking about land, and land means power. We're talking about control of all our resources. We're talking about control of our lives and having control over our destiny as a people. And so consequently, we're gonna have to fight against those negative, things that have been placed within to keep us confused, to keep us going in the wrong direction, and keep us fighting over stuff that we ought not even be fighting over, because some people want to have power just over us, not having our people having power as a whole over our circumstances.
That's right. We go on and on, trying to educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated. But the best way to do that is just tell people the honest truth, the hardcore truth about our story. I heard Queen Mother Biana Bello talk about when Haiti got its freedom. The first thing they did was they said, let's put these religions on the shelf first and handle our business with this common enemy. And I'm telling new Africans now, black people in America, let's put all that on the shelf. We know what the problem is with our existence here in the United States of America, and it's time for us to deal with it by any means, all means, and every means necessary. And that's for real. Ain't no air in that. We can't be getting confused, letting chaos come amidst us. Anything that is contrary to us liberating our future, liberating our people, is something that's detrimental to us. And we need to rid ourselves of that, be it uh, a thing, a people, a person, or a thing. We got to do away with it, period, and have no remorse. And that's what it's all about, because our children and our grandchildren and our descendants, ascendants after us, deserve better than what we have for us right now.
Definitely. It's officially New Year's, and everybody's doing their New Year's resolutions or whatever you want to call it. How about this? What about we, like you said, eliminate all those things that are negative towards black people from our lives? Let's build on the positive, build on the brilliance of our people, build on the intellect of our people, and let's raise each other up. Because as I saw in the prison system, because we have to understand, the brothers locked in the prison system is for a large part are brothers that have been thrown away, brothers who have been forgotten about by society. You be in that courtroom and you say 20 years life, and for a few months, you try to stay in touch, but as the years go on, you just kind of forget about them. But just seeing these brothers, I see that all of our people are valuable. All of our people are strong. All of our people, we are more than what we have been taught to be. We are more than what we have been conditioned to be. We can return to our original greatness because we come from great ancestry, and that is still within our DNA. So let's be who we are, black people, and let's struggle and fight to establish something that is going to promote the greatness of ourselves and our children, you know, because we can't continue to be influenced by systems that's not designed to bring out that greatness. It's designed to suppress it. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Grandmaster Teacher, and we're gonna get up out of here.
Yeah. Thank you for paying attention to what we are talking about. I think it's important that we begin to talk to one another and pull each other into the movement. And everybody that's out there that's not educated, we got to try to educate them. And those who are miseducated, we got to make sure that we begin to grab hold to some people who are miseducated, because they have been important people in doing things, but they have just become miseducated as to what our goals are today. Our goals are the same as it's always been. That is the liberation of African people throughout the world, and in particular, liberation of our people in the different land forms that we are located. So we'll be able to take control of our own lives, over our own system, our own politics, our own health care, our own education, and any way that we got to begin to see that that however minimal that progress that we've made some progress, and that we're able to really respond to the people today and do that education and re-education.
That's right. You're so right. We have made progress, definitely made progress. Never, underestimate how far we've gone and what we have accomplished, because one thing you have to understand, this is a protracted struggle.
Right.
It's each generation's responsibility to move the needle just a little bit farther and a little bit farther and that is happening. You know what I'm saying? The conversation in the mainstream is different from the conversation in the mainstream years ago. You know what I'm saying? It ain't where we want it to be, but we have to understand conditions are changing, and conditions will continue to change. And ultimately, we continue to advocate and struggle and leave the blueprint for the next generation to pick up and carry the fight forward. We will gain our liberation. But since this is the voices of New Africa, not the voices of Kakai, Prophecy, and Fadali, is the voices of New Africa, we want to end, with some of y'all comments, because y'all still having a lively conversation. So we're going to end the show with y'all comments, and then we're going to get out of here. So I'm going to let you read the comments. You can start with when you left out with Brother Rowe.
Brother Rowe, yeah. Land, opportunity, and freedom for the children. It's non-negotiable. That's right. It is non-negotiable.
That's Roe Jamu, right?
Yeah, Roe Jamu. That's right. Family, along with comrade. Patrick Alexander, free the land, brother. Power, brother Prophecy, brother Captain Kakai, and Elder Fadali. Yeah, peace. After the revolution, and we understand that, and you understand that. I shade, damn right. Melly Queen, Rose Salute King, yes. And then I got brother Joe Gonzalez. Salute you too. The GU, that's right. He know what the GUCU stand for. But anyway, Joe Gonzalez, thank you. Thank you, comrades, for sharing the topic. Stay strong, brothers and sisters in the struggle. That's right. Stay strong, brother. I was just whining about that this morning, remembering myself. It's protracted and slow. My ill tough ass down.
Hey, that's one thing. That's one thing about Comrade Rowe Jamu. That brother got a lot of energy, and he one of them brothers. When you give him something, he just go with it. He gone. He trying to win the struggle to, like, in the next hour, be like, oh, come on, let's go, let's get it. And we need energetic brothers like that, man. Comrade, we just did a trip down to the prison system in Tennessee, Northeast Correctional Complex. Northwest Correctional Complex in Tiptonville, and it was a great experience, man. I wish you was there, man. We got to get you along with us with some of these programs so you can speak to the people, man, because you got a powerful voice, man. People listen to you. That is a natural leader. Yeah. He came into the movement as a leader. He didn't have to learn how to be a leader. The brother is a natural leader within him. So yeah, you continue with the.
Go. Yeah, I gotta give an ashe to that, all of that about Brother Bro. Free the Land comrades, thank you for another great show. Love y'all, FTL, Millie Queen. FTL to you, Queen Mother. Thanks for the love. Roa Jamu, thanks for the love back. Roa Jamu, I'll be ready in 3 days. Abargani, Amani, Happy Jubilee, New Year. Let's get it. It's our time. Free the land. Brother Rowe, my honor. And I want to roll back to Brother Bomani, mentioning that it was Dr. John Henry Clark Day today. That's right. Yeah. Dr. John Henry Clark. Baba. Dr. John Henry Clark. And so we're gonna
you know what, comrade? I just realized something. Being that our web is down and it's basically kicked me off, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to close the show because I gotta be online to close the show. But yeah, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank everybody for your comments. Thank everybody for everything that you do. And continue to support this movement. That we have. We will. We're gonna do bigger and better things. Here we go. Let me turn this down.
You need that for right
now. Yeah, we're gonna continue. Do it like this. Thing. Okay, we're gonna continue to do bigger and better things, and we're gonna continue to be leaning on your support because we have to do things as a collective and have a collective effort to liberate our people. And with that, we're gonna say free the land to everybody. Thank you again, and we'll see y'all next week, y'all.
Play that intro to Voice of New Africa.
We always say the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
These are the voices of New Africa. These are the voices.